Well, in that case, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you an artist, an activist, a facilitator, community organizer, a very good friend of mine, Natalya Brusilovsky.
Yay! Hi. Hi. So I'm going to tell you about me and my origins and how I came to be. I was born in communist Ukraine in the Soviet Union, 1975. Now, they didn't like Jews very much, and we can talk about why another time. But basically, from violent aggression, like burning down my aunt's house, to subtle and silent discrimination, like not being able to get a job, like, oh, I'm sorry, we just don't have any openings anymore when we did 2 minutes ago. Jews just weren't liked. But there I was in 1975 in Kiev. At the time, in communist Ukraine, when a woman had a child, she could stay home with this child for 6 months, and then at 6 months, take the child to a preschool, a little sadik, as we call them. Don't get to choose what preschool you go to, or your child goes to. So at 6 months, my mother took me to a preschool, and about a week after I was there, I went home. I had to go home with pneumonia. I had pneumonia somehow, and there were some rashes on my bottom. Well, discrimination pairs well with paranoia, and my mom quickly snapped me out and figured out a way for my grandmother to watch me for another 6 months until I became a little bit more hardy, so that I could go back to preschool stronger. So 6 months went by, my grandmother was able to watch me, and I ended up going back to the same preschool, because that's what you had to do at the time. So another couple weeks go by, and sure enough, I end up with another rash on my bottom, and pneumonia. This time I had double-sided pneumonia. So the second time I had pneumonia, I was 1 year old. And 5 days later, I'm in the hospital. The doctor's telling my mother, your child will not live unless she heals in the next day or two. Unless something happens, she's not going to make it. So my mother's kind of a nervous wreck. Now, I'm sharing a room with other babies around my size, and my mother tells me I'm the only Jew. Now, maybe she just thought I was, but with my face, you know, and my hair, it's hard to miss that I'm a Jew. So everybody knew that I was a Jew. My mother doesn't know if there was anybody else there. So we're all sharing a room, and what happens is there was kind of an unwritten rule in this very old hospital that once a day, all of the parents take out the kids from the hospital room, and one of the parents stays in and opens the windows to air out this stuffy old hospital room. So my mother goes with me and all of the other mothers and the babies except one to leave the room, and I freak out basically and start crying hysterically. My mother runs back in to get my bottle to feed me and realizes that my bottle is gone. So she starts looking around everywhere. She looks on the table, she looks on the floor, she looks everywhere, and as paranoid people do, she starts looking out the window. And sure enough, my bottle was out the window. This woman had put my bottle in the icy cold snow so that I would have ice cold water to drink and finally just die. So betrayal, murder, attempted murder, right? So this is a true story. That was me at 1 year old. My mother was able to finally convince the doctor to allow me to leave that hospital since I obviously wasn't getting any better. And at the same time, she was also able to convince my father, who was the last to agree, to move to America. So my father finally said, okay, well, we're not going to be able to make a living here. How are we going to be able to make a living here with these people that act like this? And they got everything that they knew, got rid of everything, sold everything, whatever, packed up 2 suitcases per person, $100 per family, and as soon as Brezhnev, who was president at the time, allowed us, we got out and went to Italy for a few months, and then went to New York for about a week, and then landed here in this beautiful city of Baltimore. So here we are, and they started anew. I had a chance to have privilege, white privilege. I had a chance to grow up this way, and my family all had a chance to grow up this way. So I kind of took that lesson with me as I got older throughout the years of, hey, if something's really difficult, you can just get up and leave and go somewhere else and start completely anew, where nobody knows you, you change everything. So when I was 17, I finagled my way to get a scholarship to the University of Iowa. I went to Iowa and found peace and you know, farmland. And I loved it, and I was able to be a totally different person, and I, you know, got into Britpop and, you know, learned about Morrissey and Oscar Wilde and things, and kind of, you know, matched that persona with my outfits and what have you. But of course, taking that same lesson, I decided I want to get up and go because Iowa isn't the place for me. I came back to Baltimore. Couple more months in Baltimore, I was like, I still can't do this Baltimore. It was twice as much violence as it is today, twice as much murder, I should say, as it is today. Even thicker tension at the time. I needed to leave. I had friends in Los Angeles, so I packed up everything again, went all the way back to Los Angeles, basically moved every 1 or 2 years for the next 17 years. Every time things got difficult, I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna pack up all my stuff, whatever I can't fit in my car. I'm gonna sell or give away, or actually went the opposite way. I actually tried to sell and give away everything else, and then the rest stayed with me in my car. So my great, you know, glitter glam makeup and lipstick, all of that, of course, went away at first auction. You know, my great leather mini skirts, zip up boots, all of my chains from the punk rock days, all of that gone. It's all just material. Of course, I stay who I am inside, but without the stuff, you kind of, after persona after persona after persona, and all of my stuff that kind of made up who I was and my subcultures is now elsewhere. I really kind of got back to Baltimore, and I was like, well, who am I now? I know I'm going to stay in Baltimore. I bought a house so that I wouldn't even get the itch to leave, because I knew that I would, but I was kind of like, okay, who am I now? Where am I? And I was just thinking about, you know, what is the through line here? You know, the through line is me running away from place to place after I got tired of things. I wanted to change. I wanted to move. You know, but what is the through line? Am I really just somebody that like just moves and reinvents myself every time I go somewhere new, which was a lot of places? And I realized that this one through line is every single job I have had, I have actually worked to somehow end discrimination, tackle discrimination. And I didn't even realize this until recently, but that pretty much stems back to my origins of how I got to this country, why, and what we need to do so that everybody can have a, you know, similar experience. So that's my origin story. That's how I became who I am. Thank you.